to make a meal so I can change and act strange. Get a Andre 3000 wig with some bangs.
All right, welcome back to the Fast Break. I am your host, Drew Ambergy, and this is a very special episode because it is playoff time, which is, as we all know, with the NBA, is the kind of the only time that matters. Obviously, we see guys resting nowadays and stuff like that, and with the ring chasing culture and stuff like that, we base so much on playoff performances and how far you go in rings that, this is what every player lives for. So it's the most exciting time of the year. So we're going to be going through each series, some a little bit quicker than others because, we're expecting maybe a couple of sweeps here or there. And then obviously got to spend some time on the juicier matchups. But obviously I'm joined by Nick Rodabaugh. You've seen him in a lot of episodes, and Jacob Bradley, of course. How we doing, boys?
Doing good, doing good.
Good,
doing
good.
Great, too. It's playoff time.
I know, I'm excited. Let's go. Let's get right into it. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference, and then we're going to go to the Western Conference and take it from 1 to 8 down to 4 to 5. All right. Obviously, the first one in the East is the number 1 Heat versus the Hawks or the Cavs. Oh, I should preface this by saying we are recording this at 3 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. So the other two play-in games, or the final two play-in games, are going to be happening in a little bit. I'm going to try to get this out as soon as possible so it's not too far behind. We'll have it out before the first games actually start of the playoffs. But we're just kind of going to assume or make our predictions and take it from there, even though we're not necessarily expecting any upsets right now. No spoilers. But, all right, Heat versus the Hawks or Cavs. First of all, I'll ask you guys, for me personally, I think the Hawks are going to take this game against the Cavs. Now, I like the Cavs, but with Jarrett Allen's uncertainty, obviously they've just kind of had injuries all year. Unfortunate for them, Sexton, Rubio. I think they just kind of lost steam towards the end of the year. They fought their hearts out against the Nets. So prop to them for making it in this play-to-get-in game. But I just don't see them getting around the Hawks. I think Trae Young probably takes over, drops a nice, cool 35 on them, and I think they will be playing the Heat in the first round. Do you guys disagree or agree with that take?
I agree. Okay. I just think Trae Young and John Collins and their shooters, I just think the ability for the Hawks to hit the three, especially hit the three when it matters most, is going to kind of be the deciding factor, and they're just going to end up running the Cavs out.
Yeah, they got a lot of high-powered offense. What about you?
I agree. Hawks will probably take this one. Like Nick mentioned, really good three-point shooting team. They also just take care of the ball all the time, so you're not going to get a lot of points off turnovers, and you're going to have to play a really good game to beat the Hawks. So I think the Hawks take it.
For sure, for sure. And then, so whether it be the Hawks or the Cavs, we're assuming Hawks, but if it's either one of them, do you see them beating the Heat? Because me personally, I still got Heat in 5, no matter which team. Now, I like the Hawks' high-powered offense. Obviously, the Cavs got a lot of size. But I just, and I think they get one at home. Because the Cavs, they got a decent, home court advantage. Those fans have been getting rowdy. LeBron trained them well. And I think the Hawks have enough high-powered offense where at one point in the series, they're just going to go nuclear from 3 and probably take one from them. But the Heat are deep, a lot of really experienced guys. Obviously went to the finals a couple of years ago. And just a lot of veteran guys. I don't think they slip up in this series. I think the Heat take it in 5. What about you guys?
I have the Heat in 5. For this matchup, especially going through the whole playoffs, my X factor for the Heat would definitely be Tyler Hero. Even though he comes off the bench, he right now is probably going to be the unanimous 6th man of the year.
Oh, for sure.
So just him averaging like 20.7 points per game off the bench is pretty ridiculous. So I think coming down to it, he's going to need to perform. But I have seen with Tyler Hero, he tends to take pretty bad shots at times. I know he's going for the heat check, but at the end of the day, it's the playoffs. So
no pun intended.
Not at all. But he's got to be a little smarter than that, especially in a series where every game actually matters.
I agree with that. What about you?
I would agree. I'd probably take the Heat in 4 or 5. But I do want to point out some concern I do have for the Heat. They are a really streaky team hitting from behind the arc, and they really rely a lot on their three-pointers, maybe more than any other team in the league. So we've seen throughout the season, they have hot and cold nights, of course, but even on their hot nights throughout the game, you have spurts where the team goes cold from behind the arc, And that really gives teams the opportunity to come back late in games.
Especially
That's
going on
happened.
big runs in the playoffs.
Live
like
and
that.
die by it. Live and die
And
by
that's
the
happened
threes.
throughout the season for the Heat. They've given up late leads, struggled closing games. So I do worry about that, but at least for this first series, I definitely think that they're the better team over the Hawks and will win.
And that's a good point. I think that's why a lot of people don't have them making the finals, even though they are the number 1 seed, is because when you got teams like the Celtics, Bucks, Philly, they're just more consistent shooters. You know, I think the Heat could go cold for a quarter and, you know, in each game, and that could be the difference maker in a playoff series. So, yeah, I think we're all unanimous in this one. Heat in 5. I will say, though, shout out Darius Garland. If the Cavs were to win this game, now he did play really well in the last game they had in the play-in. So, I mean, there's always the chance he goes off for 35, and then Mobley, you know, is just locked down on defense in the paint. And there's definitely a roadmap for the Cavs here, but I think we can all agree Heat in probably about 4 or 5, and they'll take care of business. Now, much juicier matchup here. We got the Celtics and the Nets. I personally, I would say this is the best first round matchup. I think that's fairly unanimous. I mean, just, you know, you got Tatum, Brown, Smart, potentially Robert Williams, and then obviously, you know, you got Kyrie and KD on the other side. I mean, it doesn't get more high powered than that.
And Seth Curry.
Now we'll see. He's been a little shaky lately, but me personally, I'm not taking the upset here, even though some people do think it would be an upset the other way. And I'm not trying to be a homer, but I'm going Celtics in 6. Personally, because the Nets, as great as those two guys are, they really got 2 guys. With how they've been playing lately, they really, like, I mean, Seth's been playing. Seth can give them some points. Drummond has good games, but I just can't see them being consistently able to just match the depth the Celtics have. They just have a lot more wing defenders that they can just throw at guys. And especially if Robert Williams comes back, he is going to feast inside. And he'll basically make any points in the paint like a non-factor, I think, with the switching that they do. And, I mean, the great thing about him is he can switch from Durant all the way to, I mean, he guards 1 through 5. So, like, this is going to be a defense that they haven't seen before. And let's just mention that the Celtics have won the last 3 matchups. Now, they weren't healthy for all of them, but, you know, if there's anybody that can at least try to defend 2 of the best scorers in the world, it is this Celtics defense. So, you know, they've had the best defense in the league for the second half of the season. The Nets defense is really abysmal, honestly. And, you know, the Celtics in the second half of the season have had the 3rd best point differential ever. The 3rd best point differential in the second half of the season, right up there with, like, the 96 Bulls. So that's what's doing it for me. I got Celtics in 6. Of course, the Nets are at least going to take 2 games.
Yeah.
Could easily see it going 7 as well, too. What do you guys think?
So I actually have Boston in 7.
Okay.
I just think, like, yeah, the Nets defense is terrible, but at the end of the day, that's not what their team identity is. It's they got 2 of the best scorers in the league, Kyrie and KD. Even if you try and lock them up, they'll still put up 20 on you. So I think it's going to come down, like you said, the Celtics defense. And then on the Celtics offensive side, it's going to come down to Jason Tatum. I mean, right now, he's probably not going to win it, but he's like 5th in MVP voting.
4th or 5th,
4th
he'll
or
end
5th.
up there. Probably
So,
first team. He'll be first team because Durant missed too many games.
Yeah. So I think it's going to come down to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the offensive side to kind of go up against like Kyrie and KD. So I can really see that's going to be a great like offensive matchup. But defensively, I think the Celtics are just going to be too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally see what you guys are saying about the Celtics defense. I, however, do have the Nets winning in 6. Not going to 7. I have the Nets winning in 6. And why I say this is they have the 2 biggest superstars on the court in this game. And not only are these 2 superstars, they're well known for performing in clutch time. When it matters the most, they're going to hit those shots. And honestly, I look at the Celtics, their 2 main guys, Brown and Tatum, great players. I love watching them. But when you look at their 3rd guy, especially when we think about 3-point shooting, their 3rd guy is really Marcus Smart. Maybe you can call it Peyton Pritchard. But Marcus Smart's their 3rd guy. He's really on and off. And he's not an offensive guy you need to rely on or want to rely on. when one of your other stars is on the bench or just cold for a few minutes. So the Nets third guy you talked about him, Seth Curry, I think you're kind of downplaying him here, honestly. Seth Curry is a great shooter. He's over a 40% shooter
He's
in
a great
his
shooter,
career.
but had a goose egg in the playing game.
He did
In
have a goose
34
egg
minutes.
in 34
That's
minutes.
tough. He was just
Yeah,
getting
big
cardio
fat
out there.
zero.
He was just running around.
I will say right now, Curry
Snell.
will have at least one 25-point or plus game in this series. Curry's going to come through. Curry hits shots coming off screens, getting it from kickouts. He's going to hit shots, but more importantly, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, I think they're going to lead this team. One thing for the Boston Celtics, though, their head coach, Ime Udoka, is a former assistant coach of the Nets just last year.
Yep.
So you're
So
right. That
revenge
defense,
tour.
yeah,
Let's
that
go,
defense
Ime.
combined with kind of some internal knowledge of the Nets could mean trouble.
Yeah. And, I mean, the thing with me is, like, Steph Curry, or not Steph. I mean, hey, if they had Steph, it's a whole different series. But, no, with Seth Curry, the thing is that, you know, so Marcus Smart is going to be on Kyrie. And he's going to make – I mean, Kyrie can obviously get around anybody just because he has the best handles possibly that we've ever seen. But we're going to have Derek White matching up on Seth Curry. And he's a really, really good perimeter defender as well, too. That was a really good pickup for them. His scoring is not what they wanted it to be, but he is a good defender. So they will have just guys to throw at him to at least try and slow him down. So it's going to be a crazy matchup, but I get what you're saying there. I mean, you know, but the nice thing about Jason Tatum taking this leap is they really do have a guy that can go bucket for bucket with Durant. I mean, in their last matchup, we saw Tatum, I think he drops 56. So, you know, he's taken on that challenge, and Ime Udoka really challenged him, was like, yo, stop looking up to these guys. Yeah. They are not, like, your idols anymore. Like, they're your rivals now. Yeah. You got to try and beat them.
He's up there with them.
He's been a dog this year, so we'll see. It's gonna be a hell of a matchup. I'm really excited for it. That one starts Sunday, so keep your eye out for that one. All right, let's move on to Bucks and Bulls. So I kind of want to go through this one a little bit quickly. I got Bucks in 4. Honestly, the Bulls have really, honestly, if you look at them the second half of the year, just been a bad team.
Yeah, they've been
really
hard.
Really bad. Like, dude, at the All-Star break, they were the #1 seed.
Yeah, in the East.
Now they're the 6th seed. That's pretty tough to do in a couple of months.
But they did it.
But they did it.
They found a way to drop 5 spots.
Bucks beat them every time they matched up this year. I don't see Giannis letting this team slow him down at all. He knows that he's either got the Nets or the Celtics coming up in the second round, I said that right? The Nets or the Celtics coming up in the second round. I think they're going to want to breeze through this one so that they get some rest. Let the other two teams just battle it out, and I think, you know, I just see the Bucks taking it in 4. You know, they've kind of coasted through the regular season, even though they're still the 3 seed and could have been the 2 seed if they wanted to win on the last game of the year. Bud Budenholzer. But
they didn't want the Nets.
They didn't want the Nets. They were scared. That's bad. That's the basketball gods will punish you for that. So I got Bucks in 4. What about you guys?
I got Bucks in 5.
Okay.
I just don't think
Stealing one?
I think they'll steal one. I just think having DeRozan and Zach LaVine, it's a lot of firepower on the offense. I think they'll be able to. They'll steal probably game 3 or 4. The only win they'll have will be at home. And then, I mean, no one's going to guard Giannis. Like, Vucevic is the only guy that could match up to him, I think. But other than that, I think Giannis will have an easy double-double every game with, like, 25 plus and 10 almost every game. And then, I just don't think the Bulls really stand a chance.
No, they've just been on the downward trajectory for the second half of the year, and the Bucks. I mean, I think Giannis is hungry. He wants to go back to back. They're not satisfied.
Another
at all.
50-piece nuggets from Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
Bone
Bucks. I got them as a sweep here, and I mean, I don't think that's a terribly bad thing for the Bulls. Their expectation wasn't a title this year,
and they've had some injuries, and honestly, overall, good year.
Yeah,
for
I think
the Bulls,
it's a good year no matter what happens. That wasn't their expectations, but the Bulls are 1-14 against the top 4 teams in the East.
Wow.
So that just shows you they're not really made to
And the
compete
West,
against
too, I
these
think
contenders.
like,
So, I got a sweep here.
I think they've won like it's like 2 or 3 games against the top 4 seeds from both conferences. Wow. So, I mean, yeah, they've just been kind of feasting on bad teams all year. And, you know, that kind of shows that they were a phony and not deserving that 1 seed ever. But, all right, moving on from there. So we all got Bucks fairly quickly. We'll go Philly, Toronto. Now, this one is another juicy one. Philly's the 4 seed, so they do have that home court advantage. Toronto's the 5 seed. And, you know, so this is an interesting one because, you know, they got Nick Nurse. I think they got the best coach in the series. They do not have the best 2 players in the series, though. So that always kind of makes it interesting when one team has a lot more depth than the other team, but, you know, the other team's got the best 2 players in the series. Yeah. But for me, personally, with the way Siakam has been playing lately, Fred VanVleet obviously shows up in the playoffs. I'm taking Raptors in 6, and one of the reasons for that is, like I said, they've been playing really good lately. They play really good defense. They're going to have a bunch of just 6'8" dudes to throw at Harden and Embiid and try to slow them down. Embiid's still going to get his 40 every night. But I mean, Harden has been shaky down the stretch of the year. Yeah. I think, what was it, Jalen Rose said that his stats look like a concert tour dates. Yeah. 415, 417. Yeah, I know you hate that one. But I go Raptors in 6. But because they're going to be – also the reason for that is because Tybal is not vaccinated, so he can't play the road games in Toronto. And I think that actually makes a big difference because he is a elite defender. He's an elite defender. If he was fully healthy, it might be different. But I'm saying Raptors in 6, but if they don't get it done in Game 6, it will be Philly in 7. So that Game 6 is crucial because if they don't get it done in that game, I think Philly gets it done at Game 7 at home.
That's fair.
What do you guys think about this one?
I actually disagree with you. I said Philadelphia in 6.
Okay.
Yeah, Harden's been shaky. As Jalen Rose said, his stats have been horrible lately. But at the end of the day, it is James Harden in the playoffs. So I think you kind of have to go on that. No.
Dude,
James Harden.
Some of the worst performances.
All right, but it's still James Harden. At the end of the day, I think
true.
he'll end his slump at some point.
No, he'll definitely have some good games.
I mean, and Embiid's still there to drop his 40 and 15 or whatnot.
Yes,
but I think, like you said, Thybulle not being able to play in Toronto is huge, just because he'll be able to lock down like Scotty Barnes or Gary Trent, whoever they want him on that series. And then flip side for the Raptors, I think Scotty Barnes will kind of play a vital role. I think we'll be curious to see how he plays as a rookie, not having that much experience in like a playoff level, in like the playoffs and like that intensity and like what that carries. But I just think Embiid and Harden, if Harden can get out of his slump, they'll go to 6. They'll win it in 6.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes has been playing really well for them. But you're right, he's a rookie, and sometimes those lights get a little bit brighter in the playoffs, and he's not going to be able to put up those stats that we saw throughout the regular season. So I agree with you there. I do think, just a quick note on Scotty Barnes, he's been awesome, like going down the stretch. And
he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year.
He might win Rookie of the Year. He might steal it from Mobley because Mobley's been tailing off a little bit. So, yeah, he's been putting up numbers for them. So we'll see how that goes. How do you feel about this one as a Philadelphia fan?
As a Joel Embiid fan, I don't see anybody stopping Joel. You guys are saying it 40-15. I don't know what he's going to do out there, but nobody's going to stop him.
Could see a 50-piece for him, too, honestly.
Yeah, maybe a couple of them. So, yeah, I think Sixers win this in 6 or 7.
Okay.
I'm not too worried about Thybulle being inactive for Toronto games, just because Toronto really doesn't have that one offensive weapon that needs to be shut down.
True.
They're more of a team effort. Siakam's been improving, but he's more of a paint guy,
and
not
Van
really
Vliet.
Thybulle's expertise. What were you saying?
Oh, VanVleet has been playing elite defense all year. Yeah. Arguably first team all defense. I've seen him on some projections. I think he has a decent shot of making second team as well, too.
Okay.
But he's been playing great defense for them. But, yeah, I think you're right. Not having, like, a primary scorer for them might end up hurting them in the playoffs. Because Siakam, when it slows down, Siakam is not as effective.
Yeah. And then for the Raptors.
Go ahead.
For the Raptors, another point. They're going to have to play inside out. So I think they're going to feed Siakam most of the time. But then once he gets it, that's when like VanVleet and Gary Trent are really going to like be able to like turn it on and start hitting from outside. So that's another thing for the Sixers they got to be careful about. They can't like try and double Siakam because they don't want that open shooter.
Yeah, if those role players don't show up for Toronto, it could, you know, if they don't have a good series, it could be Philly in 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You know, if those players don't show up. What were you saying? I know you cut you off.
I just think Toronto's just not there yet as a team. They need a center to really push them to the next level. Right now they're relying on like Precious Achiuwa.
Yeah.
Chris Boucher, I think, has been injured. Still, those two aren't really quality centers you want starting for you, great role players. But so I think they're just short right now, just not that team yet.
Yeah, no, totally understand. All right, so we're kind of split on that one. But that was the Eastern Conference. There's our picks for those guys. Now let's move it over to the West. Now the East, honestly, a lot of interesting matchups over there. The West, still some good matchups, but I got these series a little bit easier for the top teams out there.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the East, those teams at the bottom would normally be your
At the top.
3 to 6 seeds.
Yes.
And instead they're pushed down because we just got like 4 or 5 just really good teams in the East. So those opening matchups aren't going to be so easy in the East compared to the West, where we start with the Suns and either the Pelicans or the Clippers. Right now, I'm actually not sure about this game. I could take it either way. For the play-in game, the Pelicans and Clippers are playing tonight. I could see this going either way. You know, I would normally pick the Pelicans because I thought they played really well in their game. But obviously, Ty Lue, really good coach. Maybe they're kind of embarrassed that they didn't win the last game. And, you know, I could see Paul George taking over. They are going to have the best player on the court. So I'm going either way on this, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to take the Clippers in this one. So Suns, what I said is if it was the Pelicans, if the Pelicans win, I'm going Suns in 4. But if the Clippers, which I think it's Suns in 5, just because I think they can put it together for one game at home. But, I mean, Suns, historically great season. I don't see them having too much hiccups. I think, obviously, the Clippers, you know, you got Rocco, Norman Powell, Paul George. You just got guys that can shoot. And I think if they got hot one game, they could steal one at home. But I'm going Suns in 5, possibly 4. What do you guys think? Any hiccups here?
I got Suns in 4. I got them sweeping whoever. I don't think it matters whoever comes out of that playing game for them. I mean, just having Devin Booker, who's had a fantastic year. But I think what stands out for the Suns is kind of their role players and the guys, not their super big names. So it's like, of course, Devin Booker is their all-star, but then again, they have a veteran CP3 being able to facilitate the floor. And then they got Cam Johnson, who's also up for 6th Man of the Year.
Cam Johnson's been awesome.
And then Jay Crowder, who's been like every team he's on, he's been a pretty good role player. So I just think
a heat check guy.
Yeah, I think they're just gonna be too much, and they're gonna win in 4. So I'm actually curious to see how far the Suns can actually go in the playoffs with all this offensive firepower.
And don't sleep on Bridges too. I
Yeah.
mean, played 82 games this year, and just playing really awesome defense. Can't sleep on him as well too. He gives them that like elite defender on the outside that like, you know, he can match up against somebody's best scorer, which has really been the reason why they've done so well this year, is because I just think their defense has honestly risen a level, and then obviously just playing another year. They're better than they were last year, and they made the finals last year, so I see them going back. Any hiccups?
No, I got Suns winning either way. I think Clippers are a better team than the Pelicans, much better team. So I hope they make it through. They got a lot of wings. They can play really good defense. So I think it would be more fun. But I think Suns are going to win either way. You guys said it. They just got what it takes. They got experienced group, that facilitator in Paul George. They got the pure scorer with Booker, and they're just great on offense and defense. So
Yeah, for
got
sure.
them winning.
One of the more prolific, seasons we've seen from a team. I mean, you know, and if they were actually, I think throughout the regular season, like really going for it, like they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit, but they still had an insane record just because of how much talent and depth they did have. But I mean, I was looking at it, I'm like, if they really pushed the entire season, this really could have been like a 67 win team. I mean, they were unbelievable if they really would have pushed all year. But I think they were smart, and you got to take it easy with Chris Paul. You want to limit those miles on him before the playoff starts.
He's old.
Yeah, you see, they rightfully so, took their foot off the gas a little bit at times. But they could have had a really probably the best, regular season that we've seen since the Warriors. I think they did believe so. But anyway, Suns in 4. Like the guy last year. Remember that guy that beat the crap out of the other guy?
He had the money
Suns
too.
in 4.
Didn't he have the money too? Wasn't he showing $100 bills under the basket?
I think he was, yeah. I think he was too. That guy became a low-key celebrity last year.
Get that guy in the arena for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be there. He tried to profit off of that too. He was making Suns in 4 shirts, hoodies, whatever. I mean, good for him. Take your 15 minutes of fame. But Suns in 4 guys, shout out to you. All right, moving on. We got the Memphis Grizzlies, led by Ja Almost Morant, versus the number 7 seed Minnesota Timberwolves, who, congratulations on getting back in the playoffs and winning the championship the other night. Memphis, great season. Super happy for them. I love Ja. I love their team. I'm taking them in 6 because, honestly, I like Minnesota. Memphis is still young. Minnesota's a little bit more veteran. I don't think Anthony Edwards is scared of anybody. I think there's going to at least be 2 to 3 games this series where he drops 30 to 35 points. He's a bucket. Okay. He's not scared of anybody. And so that's why I could see them stealing a game or 2 from this series. So that's why I take Memphis in 6. But I think they win probably, pretty handedly in the games they win. And Minnesota, sneaks out a couple of them if they're shooting well. I could see Cat going off, D'Lo going off a game, and then Edwards giving you nice consistency. Yeah. I mean, well, we'll see about Cat. The play-in game was obviously one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen. That was really bad. But if D'Lo gets in a rhythm, I could see them taking a couple of games. Ja will be fine. I think they held him out towards the end of the year just to make sure he's 100% going to the playoffs. Because he plays so hard that, they're up 30 with, 6 minutes left, and he's diving after a loose ball into the stands. So I think, honestly, he is perfectly fine. And I think Memphis just held him out to, kind of save him from himself. They don't want him getting hurt, making some crazy play before the playoffs start. And I like Minnesota's home crowd. They were super energized for that play-in game. So I think they get 1 or 2 at home. And, but I think at the end of the day, Ja, we've seen he hasn't shied away from any big moment. I think he has an awesome series, and Memphis in 6. What are you guys feeling about this one? I'll start with Jacob this time.
Okay, I'll have the Grizzlies winning this in probably 5, in my opinion. Yeah. And for 2 main reasons here. The Grizzlies just have more depth, more specifically more depth at scoring. They got really good scorers off the bench. D'Anthony Melton, Desmond Bane, Brooks and Bane aren't off the bench, but still they're really good scorers. And then Jaren Jackson is a sniper. Saw him hit a lot of late shots.
And elite defender.
Yeah,
He's probably gonna make first team all defense.
Yeah, this Grizzlies team, one of their biggest strengths is their defense. So that's going to be huge. That also goes into my second reason why the Grizzlies will win is because I believe the Grizzlies are going to lock down Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. And without Karl Anthony Towns, given the Wolves, 25-20 a night, they're not going to be able to win this series. The Grizzlies just have a lot of wing defenders. And what happened with the playing game we were talking about? Yeah. With Towns, the Clippers were throwing Morris at him. They were throwing Covington at him, and those are wings, and he was still struggling to create any space.
Yeah, he wasn't able to body him.
To even drive him in the paint. So I think the Grizzlies just have a lot of options they can do to throw at Cat, whether it's their wing defenders in Bane, or whether it's a post defender like Adams or like Jackson. So I just see the Grizz locking down Towns and the Timberwolves struggling to score.
Yeah, Adams is a good body to just throw at him. Yeah. He's not going to get moved by anybody. No, the big New Zealander, and so I think he'll be able to handle him. And they can throw bodies at him. And I mean, Cat, honestly, just really not a good playoff performer. In the only other series he's been in, I think they went to 5. When they had Jimmy, but he was not great. He was not good in that series. and then that play-in game was literally the biggest 0 ever. So I don't see it happening for him. What about you? Any hiccups here?
Grizz in 6.
Okay,
I think,
same.
but I'll talk about the T-Wolves a little bit. Yeah, Cat struggled, so I think he'll kind of be the X factor for the T-Wolves. But kind of going back to the Grizzlies, I think Jaren Jackson's going to lock him up, and that's going to be the deciding factor of the series. But I'll be curious to see the T-Wolves' other scorers, so like D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards, how they can step up, and then the guys that don't like usually score a lot, like Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Noel, see how they can add in and like have like contribute in a positive way to the scoring and defense. I mean, Jaden McDaniels is a 6'10" wing. Told you I did it.
Big Jaden McDaniels.
Told you I did
guy.
it. But I just think defensively he's good, but offensively he's kind of spotty and more of a role player than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, there was one game he went like 9 of 9 from the field. So if he can have a couple games where he's putting up double-digit points and like 7 or 8 rebounds, that could be a factor. But I just think Ja Morant and the Grizz are too much.
For sure. And I like Vanderbilt from Minnesota too. He's another guy that, you know, when Towns is, you know, flailing and crying to the refs, they can put Vanderbilt in there, and he's good for 10 boards and a few assists. He's actually
he is much more physical than Towns.
Yeah.
He's kind of the opposite. He's a big hustle player, and he doesn't really complain to the refs.
That's what's helped Minnesota is like if Cat wants to, you know, be soft and hang around the 3-point line, which he is one of the best, maybe the best big man 3-point shooter we've
He won the
ever seen.
3-point contest.
Yeah, I'll come out and say it. He's the best big man 3-point shooter we've ever seen. Well, he also got Dirk in there too, but whatever. That's so besides the point. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Jared Vanderbilt because he won me some fantasy basketball games this year. But all right, so we all got Memphis 5, 6, 6. Let's move on to Golden State Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets. So this is the 3-6 matchup. I got Warriors in 5. I think that Jokic, I know a lot of people have this series going deeper, but I just don't see it happening with the role guys from Denver in the playoffs. I mean, they're relying a lot on like Bones Highland, who I love. I mean, he's awesome. And I don't think Aaron Gordon gets it done. I mean, we saw it with the Magic for years, like, you know, he's the same player. Like, he'll give you 16, 17 points and 10 boards and be okay, but it's just, I just don't think it's going to matter against Golden State. Klay is heating up. I mean, since Curry went out, he has been lighting it up. Yeah. He's had multiple 30-point games over the last couple of weeks. So shout out Klay, always one of my favorite players. Go Cougs. So I got Warriors in 6, just because I think. Well, also Curry is probable for Game 1. So at the very least, he's gonna be back for Game 2. So maybe Denver's, you know, sneaks one out like in Game 1. Whereas I could maybe see them actually getting 2 games out of this series because I think they will win one at home. Jokic probably just has like a 45-17 and like 8
something
night.
ridiculous.
Yeah, something crazy. And, you know, they get some like hot shooting from Bones Highland, and Gordon actually plays like an all-star. So I could see Denver maybe getting a second game in there. I think they get 1 at home, but I think the Warriors they're just too deep and, you know, too veteran. They're not gonna let this series get crazy. What are you guys feeling about this one?
I got the Warriors winning this, and I think it's going to be a long series, though, and that's only because there's just so much up in the air for this series.
True.
Regarding health of other players. We got Curry. We got Green has injury concerns. Jamal Murray may make it back. Porter's not going to make it back, but Murray may make it back. But with all those things said, I still have the Warriors winning. I want to really talk about the team they were in December.
Yeah.
Going into December, going into January, Warriors were the best team in the league, had the best record in the league. They had Curry playing really well. Andrew Wiggins was making his all-star campaign. And then Green was like a Defensive Player of the Year top candidate at that time.
Yeah.
So I think this team, it's not for sure, but this team really needs to mesh together in the playoffs. And if they combine, they can go deep in these playoffs. I really believe that.
Yeah.
The only problem is that trio of Green, Curry, and Thompson, they've only played 11 minutes together this season.
Yeah.
So I know they already have chemistry through their whole 2010s run, of course, but there may still be some rust there. I think the
older.
Nuggets will get a few games, but I think the Warriors will come out on top.
So are you taking them in 7 or 6?
Warriors in 7.
7. Ooh, okay. I like it. I hope it goes 7. I think that would be sick.
That'd be a good series.
That would be sick. I would love it if it went 7. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they have not played much together, and that's the reason why they've dropped down to that 3 seed. But if anybody can come together and make it work on the drop of a hat, it's Draymond, Steph, and Clay. So I can't bet against them. How do you feel about this one? Do you think it goes deep?
I got Warriors in 6.
Okay.
I think the Nuggets will take some games at home. Just Jokic, you can't guard him. I mean, he's 7-foot center, but plays literally he can play 1 through 5 if he wants.
It's nuts.
But I think it was going to come down to for the Warriors. Yeah, Steph's hurt, so he may not be. Even if he comes back, I can see him being a little rusty and being a little conservative. But I think it's going to come down to like Jordan Poole and even Gary Payton, the second, off the bench, kind of adding those minutes and kind of the hustle plays. Because, like, let's face it, Steph's just kind of getting up there in age and has been in the league a while. So offensively, he's obviously going to go off, but defensively, he won't be as aggressive as he used to be. So I think Peyton the second and Jordan Poole will kind of add that, like, electric spark that they're going to need to kind of, like, win those key games.
Yeah, Jordan Poole's been so money for them. It really has kept them afloat while, like, Curry's gotten hurt because some nights he looks like Steph Curry. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Poole has a game in this series where he drops, like, 35, 40. I mean, he's been awesome this year. Definitely, like, one of the most improved players in the year. I'm sure he'll be in the top 5 voting for that for sure. Yeah.
Especially second half of the season. I saw since the All-Star break or the second half of the season, he's averaging over 23 points per game. So he's really found his confidence. For them.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Now this next one's a little bit more interesting because we got some injury concerns. So the 4-5 matchup is Dallas against Utah. Thank God for Dallas. They don't have to play the Clippers again. No, but well, honestly, they probably beat them this year because Luka's obviously taken another step up. He's now reached that top 5 of the MVP voting range. But I'm actually still going. So Luka's nursing that calf strain. Probably not going to play game 1. I'm assuming.
Or game 2. Game 2's kind of up in the air.
Game 2's up in the air. So this one's tough but at the same time, you got a Utah team where everything I'm hearing is just, it's going to be blown up in the offseason. Like, I hear rumors of Quinn Snyder being gone. I hear rumors of Donovan Mitchell being gone. Mitchell and Rudy Gobert don't even like each other. Do you see the Quinn Snyder quote that when they were like, hey, do these two guys like each other? And he said, yeah, I see him having lunch sometimes. Like,
sometimes.
Hey, sometimes I have lunch with a stranger. So I don't know the chemistry in this team. It just feels like it's the end of a broken road, honestly, for me. But, and if Luka didn't have any health concerns, I'd probably go Mavs in 5, maybe 6. But because of the Luka concerns, I'm taking it that he may play game 2.
Probably limited.
Maybe limited. I'll still take the Mavs in 7 games. But I think it goes 7 because I think Utah is going to take that first game. And then that kind of shifts because they're going to win that first game on the road. And then that kind of shifts the home court advantage for the rest of the series. Now, I think the Mavs have been playing way better than Utah has lately. Utah's 4-6, kind of limping their way into the playoffs. Dallas has been the second best defensive team in the league in the second half of the season. I don't know what Jason Kidd did, but obviously with their switching and just getting the guys to buy in on the defensive end, part of that is Luka as well too. Just realizing that he needs to be a full two-way player to really reach his potential. So they've been having a great second half of the season. That's why I'm still taking Mavs in 7, but it would not surprise me if Utah takes this. If that Luka injury doesn't progress and he's out for 2, maybe even 3. Yeah. If he's out for 3 games, it's Utah in like 6. Yeah. But if it's 1.5, 2 games, still taking the Mavs in 7 because Mitchell and Rudy are just looking at each other. Quinn's probably gone, and they don't have Ingles. this year, who was a sharpshooter for them. How do you guys feel about this one? Because everybody's kind of got a different take with this Luka injury.
Well, as you said, the Mavs are the much hotter team right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. So that being said, the Mavs have not won a playoff series with Luka, but I think that ends with this series here. I got the Mavs in 7 games.
Yep.
I mean, Luka's just been an animal in the playoffs, especially. He's averaging 35, 8, and 10 in the playoffs. He took the Clippers team last year to 7 games, so I definitely think they can beat this Jazz team. This Jazz team, I mean, I do want to say, as you kind of pointed out, Mavs have a much improved team this year, especially on the defensive end. So I think that's going to be a big deal breaker. Part of the reason why they lost those last series in the past is because they're lacking on defense. So a little better there. Especially, I like their defense against this Jazz team because I think they're going to run a small ball lineup.
Yeah.
And the
Of
Jazz
course, you have to against Utah.
against Gobert, right? But the Jazz are really bad against small lineups, and their small lineups don't really produce. So they're going to be stuck having those big guys out there like Gobert, and I think the Mavs will just run like Powell or Kleba at their center spot, and they're going to take those Jazz weaknesses and exploit them in that small ball lineup. So Jazz are super Mitchell dependent. I think that small ball lineup will really improve their defense, and the Mavs will take the win here.
Yeah, and hopefully Luka can come back early because, I mean, this
Luka
second half of the year, I mean, he's reached his potential of like, you know, what we thought he could be. I mean, he's been playing out of his mind the last couple of months. So, yeah, hopefully he can come back soon. How do you feel about this one?
I actually disagree with both of you. I got Utah in 7.
Okay.
I just think Luka, him missing 1 to 2, potentially 3 games is honestly the deciding factor. Because if Luka is not on the Mavs at all, I think the Jazz win this in 5, maybe 4. So I think Luka is really the deciding factor for the Mavs. But without him, I think, you know, Donovan Mitchell is probably going to try and like take over and add Jordan Clarkson in there, and then Rudy Gobert. But I just think, honestly, it really comes down to Luka's health. Because if Luka's healthy, this game could go either way in 7. I think it's going to get to 7 no matter what. But I just think the Jazz are going to end up taking it. Because if they can steal a game, in Dallas, then I think if it comes to a game 7, I think they'll be chilling there and end up taking it.
I agree too. Utah's got a great home crowd, you know, so they're always known for coming out and being loud, which honestly makes it, as corny as it sounds, makes a difference in the playoffs. You know, some arenas just get rocking, you know, in the playoffs. The Eastern Conference has a lot of really good playoff atmospheres, so we'll see about that. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And, you know, with the Utah take, if they do win, and I could easily see them winning this series, it's going to be one of those, like, they're just pissed off about, you know, people just talking about in the last 3 years, all the playoff failures over the last few years. I mean, this could be the series where Mitchell is just like, screw this. I'm going for 45 every night. I'm not losing. I'm proving myself. This can work here. And you know what? Quinn Snyder's a good coach, so
he's done that in the playoffs.
I mean,
against Murray, and they still lost the game.
That is true.
Lost the series.
That is true. But against if it's against a dinged-up Dallas team, that might actually make the difference in the series. But all right, there's our Western Conference. Thank you so much for tuning in to our playoff preview episode. We'll be coming at you next week. We'll know a lot more in a week. So it's playoff time, so that's exciting. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it, bud. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it. Stay tuned. Obviously, like, share with your friends, follow all WSN's content, and I will see you guys next week.
Some superstar-ish right here. Yeah.